The port has begun a new shuttle service that takes you directly to the train station. We purchased a day pass which includes all the metros in Rome and took the train to the Termini station and then the subway to the Colosseum. The Colosseum's official name is the Flavian Amphitheater. Having a capacity of 50 to 80,000 spectators, it is the largest amphitheater ever built. Construction began in 72 AD by Vespasian. His son Titus completed the work in 80 AD, and Domitian made modifications to the Colosseum during his rule. The Colosseum was used for gladiatorial contests and public spectacles, including animal hunts, executions, dramas based on Roman mythology, reenactments of famous battles, and even mock sea battles in which the floor was flooded with water. The Arch of Constantine is dedicated to Constantine the Great's victory at the Battle of Milvian Bridge in 312 AD. We were unable to enter the forum area due to the extremely long lines. The Arch of Titus, constructed in 81 AD by Domitian, commemorates the victory of his brother Titus over the Jews in Jerusalem. We made a brief stop at the Piazza Navona. We then discovered that they now require a reservation to enter the Pantheon, so we were unable to go inside the structure. From there we went to the Trevi Fountain, which is always crowded, and then back to the Termini and the long ride back on the train. This was the first of 2 stops we made in the port of Naples. We decided to do a hop-on hop-off bus, but Vicky decided to stay on the ship today. This old fortress is visible from the ship. We had to walk around to the far side of the fortress to catch the hop-on hop-off bus. There are 2 routes for the hop-on hop-off bus. The first route we took went through the old port of Naples. There are several points of interest along this route, but we decided not to get off at any of the stops. Rather, we enjoyed the drive through the old part of Naples, viewing several squares and a few parks. We enjoyed the beautiful architecture of the old part of the city. Returning to the major pickup point for the hop-on hop-off bus, we waited a long time before exchanging buses and taking the second route, which goes north along the coastline. We found this route to be far more interesting than the old city drive. This route goes along the north shoreline and provides excellent views of the Bay of Naples. On the return route, you have outstanding views of Mount Vesuvius, which lies across the Bay of Naples. Returning to the city of Naples itself, you pass the small boat harbor. We discovered a bus stop much closer to the ship, so we got off there and walked back to the dock. After docking at Heracleion, we drove to the Palace of Knossos. After the Acropolis in Athens, this is the second most visited location in all of Greece. Knossos was the most prominent center in the Minoan civilization. It was the seat of their government as well as a major religious center. The palace was constructed in two phases, 1900 and 1700 BC. From here, King Minos ruled over the Minoans. The site is closely associated with two well-known Greek myths, the story of the Minotaur and Labyrinth, and the story of Daedalus and Icarus. The Minoan civilization was the first advanced culture in Europe. It flourished from 3500 to 1100 BC. The decline of the Minoan civilization is debated by historians. There are no fortifications at the palace at Knossos, so the Minoans may have been subjugated by Greek invasions. It has also been suggested that the eruption of the volcano at Santorini may have caused a sudden loss of life from the devastation caused by descending volcanic ash. The site was discovered by the British archaeologist Sir Arthur Evans in the 1800s. After buying the land, he supervised the excavation of the palace. He donated the land to Crete at his death. From Knossos, we drove to the fishing village of Ilanda. This small village has been discovered by the rich and famous and is now a large resort area. We had lunch at a local restaurant. After lunch, we had some free time to visit the harbor area and the beach. Leaving Ilanda, we drove to the coastal town of Nikolaos. Here we were given free time to do some shopping, but Vicky and I spent our time sitting on the dock area enjoying the views. We enjoyed the views from the back of Deck 16. We watched several airplanes depart the airport as we left Crete. Ephesus is one of our favorite places to visit. After Rome and Alexandria, Ephesus was the third leading city in the Roman Empire. This was our third time to visit the ruins of this ancient city. We had a wonderful guide from the company we used on our last visit. You enter Ephesus at the top of Curitis Street. This was one of three main streets in ancient Ephesus. The Curitis were the town fathers who met in the Odeon to approve rules for the city and to determine punishment for those who violated them. Part of the street was lined with shops and may have been the location of the silversmith Demetrius' store. In addition to the shops that lined Curitas Street, there was a hospital and several memorials and temples to emperors and Roman dignitaries. Only 20% of Ephesus has been excavated. There are continuing excavations ongoing at the site. The street had a covered colonnade for pedestrian traffic on each side. The middle would have been uncovered and accommodated vehicular traffic. Gutters lined the street and sewers ran underground. The wealthy would have had their slaves go ahead of them and warmed up their toilet seats for them. At the bottom of Curitas Street, near the junction with the Marble Street, are a series of hillside homes that belong to the wealthier members of Ephesus society. These homes had running water, private baths, and heating in the floors and walls. Many were decorated with fine frescoes and mosaics that can still be seen today. As you exit the terrace homes to the Marble Street, the magnificent Celsus Library will be on the left. This was one of 3 large libraries in the Roman world. It was constructed as a memorial to one of the city leaders by his son. Adjacent to the library is the commercial agora area. This would have been the main shopping mall for ancient Ephesus. Paul may have had a shop here to repair tents. It is also the second possible site for Demetrius' silversmith shop. At the end of Marble Street is the large theater of Ephesus. It had a capacity of 25,000 and would have been the scene of plays and other forms of entertainment. This is where Demetrius stirred up the crowd against Paul. The theater is also located at the junction of the Marble Street and Maritime Street. Ephesus was a port city in Roman times, and most people would have arrived in Ephesus by boat. Important officials would have been greeted with pomp and ceremony and led up Maritime Street to the theater. You exit the excavations through a tree-lined walkway, but have to pass a myriad of vendors who try to sell you authentic ancient coins and other souvenirs. We made a brief stop at the site of the Temple of Artemis. This was one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. There is nothing much left here today, as the site was destroyed by Islamic invaders, and much of the stone was repurposed in later construction projects. Istanbul is the most populated city in Europe with a population of more than 15 million. It is the 8th most visited city in the world. It straddles both the European and Asian continents and has played a pivotal role in world history. The city was founded as Byzantium in the 7th century BC. It became the capital of the Eastern Roman Empire in 324 AD under Constantine. The Hagia Sophia was built during the reign of Justinian the Great and remained the largest Christian church for over 1,000 years. The Byzantine Empire ended in 1453 when the Ottomans conquered the city. They ruled until 1920 when the Ottoman Empire was officially dissolved after World War I. This was our second visit to this exotic city. Due to Vicky's mobility issues, we canceled our ship's tour and remained on board. However, Bayard and Linda took the tour and indicated that every place they went was crowded with tourists. We had a relaxing day viewing the harbor and city from the back of Deck 16. Sail away occurred as the sun was setting over Istanbul. We got tremendous views of the Hagia Sophia, the Blue Mosque, and the Galata Bridge as we left the port. MYKINOS has built a new harbor area since our last visit. And new homes have been built here also. The new harbor area necessitates a boat transfer to the old harbor and town. We headed to the Little Venice area after viewing the old harbor. Little Venice acquired its name from the Venetian merchants who settled on the island during the time that Venice was a Mediterranean power. Our next stop was the famous windmills of MYKINOS. Then it was time for a short break at this cafe. After which we wandered the streets of Mykonos town until we returned to the old harbor. Then it was back on the water taxi to the ship for sail away.